Alright, what's going on, guys? Try back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead Q&A after that huge mid-season finale on Sunday night. In this one, we're going to give our thoughts on whether or not we think this will help or hurt the show in the long run. And spoiler warning, of course, if you guys have not seen the mid-season finale for The Walking Dead Season 8 yet. Pretty crazy stuff. Going to have lots of videos coming this week for you guys. Lots of things to discuss and talk about. Mostly discussion topics I want to say about how we're feeling, and then also the future of the series. Of course, don't forget, for Sunday this week, we're going to do a throwback to Clear. So that's for the Walking Dead, because of the crossover from Morgan going from the original Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead. Want to do a Clear throwback because there's just so much in that episode that could be very important when we get into Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 this spring or summer, whenever it ends up releasing, which I am very excited for as well, too. So, topic for this one, will this help or hurt the show? So, spoiler warning, will killing off Carl help or hurt the show? What is going to be the ramifications of the effects on the show from this? And there's also some debate about whether or not, the truth is that, and I did some videos on this if you guys didn't see them, the Explain video that I did on Sunday night, where we go through an interview from Chandler Riggs, and we kind of give our thoughts on his take on the death, what happened behind the scenes, and how he was informed, and the fact that he didn't actually want to be killed off the show or leave the show. So definitely check that out if you guys haven't seen it. It's in the channel right now. It's kind of required. I'd say it's required viewing for the conversation, because you gotta hear what he had to say about Carl, and the fact that at least he's saying now that it was not, or he's saying after the finale that it was not his decision to be killed off from the series. It was actually something that was was written in. So Heather _EMC says, Q&A, for the past 2 years, fans have been complaining about the show getting worse and their decisions being really bad. Obviously, the people in charge aren't listening to what fans want to see. Between all the terrible episodes last year, the string of bad choices Rick has made, and now killing Carl, do you think the producers or Scott Gimple or someone is intentionally trying to sink the show for some reason? I'm not really sure why they would, but they have to realize that what they've been doing hasn't worked, and they couldn't honestly believe people wouldn't jump ship after losing Carl, and then in brackets, the future of the show. So, this is a really, really tricky one here. It's kind of he said, she said. We'll go into it right now. Chris Scanlon said, on Spoiled to Dead, most people think that Chandler is lying in the interviews and did actually want off the show. He is trying to get a music career started. I think it will hurt the show. So, and then Jason Bornot says, it won't affect the show. So, this is a tricky one. You get people saying different things. If Chandler actually did buy a house in Sonoya, if he did actually buy a house there in order to work in the show, in order to be there for his job, for his work, then, I would have to say that, I would think that he would not have wanted off the show. He would have, I would think, been, buying a house there, planning on living there, planning on being in The Walking Dead for many years to come. With that, I would say that, he probably didn't want off the show if he did actually buy a house. And again, that's what he said. I don't know for sure. I don't want to call anybody a liar. I tend to take it that he's telling the truth, but it does seem pretty, it's kind of tricky, because you're thinking would they just kill him off just for the sake of the story, in order to have an effect on Rick, like Chandler said they did? It's kind of a crazy one, right, to think that. So, that's something that you guys can leave comments on, below. Do you think that, do you think he's telling the truth, or do you think that maybe he actually did want off the show, or he did want to go to college, and so they couldn't work out both or something, and then they had to do that? So, and now they're kind of acting like it was all part of the plan. Let me know what you guys think. Just write the comments below. Let me know where you're at with this one. I'm going to take his word for it and just say that, okay, well, I'm not going to call him a liar here, and I'm just going to say that, okay, it was in the writing, it was what they wanted to do for the show. So will it help or hurt the show? So here's what I think about the future Walking Dead now that you kill off Carl. Well, here's one thing. If you look at the Season 7 premiere, you had a huge boom there because you had a couple big character deaths. Now, after that, things kind of fizzled out in terms of the ratings, in terms of fan interest. It died down a lot in Season 7, going into Season 8, ratings being a little bit below 8 to 8 million, so in the U.S. anyway. So the show is still humongous. I mean, worldwide, you're going to get even more than that. So it's still one of the top shows on cable or on TV. The weeks when it's airing, it's usually number one, even still, or it's close to it. So the decision to kill Carl off as part of kind of one of the casualties of the war, but just kind of him not wanting to stay in the house and just kind of going out and helping people and this kind of thing. Of course, that will have an effect on Rick, and it will affect Rick's decision later on and what he's going to do, as well as some of the other stuff earlier we saw in this season too. Morales and Daryl's decisions to just kill everybody, the baby that Rick finds, and having killed the baby's dad, and all this kind of stuff. Gracie, was it? Yeah. So, all of this is going to have an effect on Rick for sure. I don't think you necessarily need to kill Carl in order to connect those 2 points, though. I don't think that I don't know if you need to kill him 100% for that. So, maybe that's why it was done. That's what Chandler says. The reason why it was done was to have that effect on Rick, and then Rick will make different decisions, in the second half. So we are looking for that, looking to see that. But I mean, it's such a huge change from the comics that there's so many things now that I'm just really wondering, because there's a huge part of the Whisperer story arc where Carl is at the forefront. He is kind of like the lead for half of that stuff, and now that he's killed off in the TV series, it's like, what are you going to do with all of that stuff? So it's going to make it really difficult for them to kind of change this around. But they did kill off Andrea early on in the series, and a lot of people, when that happened, a lot of people were furious with the show. They were pissed off. I think I was pretty angry too, if I remember correctly. That was like season 3, like 5 years ago now, right? Almost. But so a lot of us were upset. We didn't want to see that, and when they did kill Andrea off, it was a huge, crazy change from the comics, from what they were doing in the comics. Eventually, it kind of synced up anyway, because you have Michonne fill that role, and you kind of do that thing anyway. So, for them to kind of change it a bit, it's like, it'll be okay either way. It's not gonna. I don't think killing Carl off is going to kill the show or anything like that. In terms of the short term, it's probably going to boost things up for them in terms of ratings and in terms of interest and in terms of discussion. I'm already seeing that right now with you guys on the channel, that after doing something like that, you get a huge amount of discussion for the future of the show, videos like this, and online articles, and just interest in the show certainly peaks when you do things like that. So it's kind of I'd say like a high risk move to kill Carl off, but it's one where it's like, if fan interest is starting to dwindle in the last couple of years, you do something big like that to let people know that nobody is safe, and that they could kill anybody off at any time, and people are going to really, I would think anyway, this is my thinking, in the second half, people are going to be a lot more glued to watch it, because they're just not sure what's going to happen. And it also adds a huge character death this season for people who were complaining that in all that war, the only characters that were being killed off were like red shirts or black shirts, saviors. In this case, we get to see a huge character, an A-list character death in the series that really changes the whole season up. If you look at season 7, you had some pretty big ones. Every season we have some big character deaths, but this one is so big that it's like it's going to redefine the whole season almost, or it's going to, I would think, make this one of the most memorable seasons, because people are going to remember how they felt when Carl was killed off. It's a really big one. It's not as big as like the season 7 premiere, because of the confrontation, the meeting between Negan and the survivors, and kind of the double kill. But it's a bigger, in terms of which characters are bigger, Carl certainly was a bigger character than Abraham. Was he a bigger character than Glenn? I kind of like Glenn, so it's I'm a little bit biased, but I think I'd still have to say it's Rick's son. So, you still kind of have to go, I think, with Carl as being a higher list character than even Glenn. He's certainly one of your top list characters in the series, and to kill him off like this is a huge thing. But at the same time, if you're just not sure what's going to happen with the series, and you're like at season 8, you want to keep people interested, you want to keep people watching, throwing in something like that, really, I think over the next couple of seasons is really going to help keep people glued. If you just have the same episode, but you have Carl survive and everything be kind of the same, then you don't have the same kind of impact, and it would affect the series. It would kind of make it so people might get a little bit more bored. So at least this way, it's kind of a shake-up, or it's kind of something it's a lot different from what you would expect. And short term, it should help. Long term, it may hurt a lot, because I'm just not sure who you're going to use for those parts of the series. But if people didn't like Chandler Riggs acting anyway as Carl, they didn't like Carl in the TV series anyway, because he's not the same as the comic version, then really, I mean, I guess for those people, they would probably be happy to see this. It's just that a lot of people, used to seeing Carl, grow up with him over the series. He starts the series off in the very first season. He's just like a little kid, and, he's like, goes up to your knee or something. And, now he's almost the same, almost the same height as Andrew Lincoln as Rick. So it's really sad. It's really crazy, and people are really upset right now. But, I do think that it will boost the second half and make it kind of more epic for the conclusion. And it will also reinforce that anybody can be killed at any time. The whole Rick to Carl talk, you are not safe, that kind of thing. So for that, I think short term it will help. Long term it might hurt, but we're going to have to wait and see how that goes. And if they use this Henry character as kind of the replacement for some of those moments in the next few years, we'll have to see how that turns out as well too, and whether or not people care. So could be interesting to see. Short term will help, long term it might hurt, but we're going to have to see how that plays out. Sorry if my voice is a little raw, guys. I've been talking way too much the last couple days after this, so I'll probably lose my voice by the end of the week. Tassy McCormick says Carl was bitten helping Siddiq, which Rick told him not to do. Just goes to show that if you disobey Dad, you die. I mean, after all, this is the kid who would never stay in the damn house like he was told. It's true. So you have that. You have the effect that Rick, of course, did tell him not to do that, and was shooting on him, trying to scare Siddiq off like a like a wild animal or something, which is kind of funny. But we're gonna have to see what Siddiq's future is as well too, because as a character introduction, most people probably would not care about him. But now that you kill Carl off to bring him in, people are going to be like, okay, it better have been worth it to bring this character in if Carl's going to die. So I would think that he should be pretty important in the future, in that Carl gave up his life to bring him in. So at least he's got a pretty great introduction as a new character and somebody that people will care about. Annie G says, hey, Trevor, remember in Season 2, Episode 10, 18 Miles Out, when Shane told Rick that he couldn't keep his family safe? What do you think? Do you think he was right? Clearly he was right, but Rick kind of said the same to Carl too, that you aren't safe, and that Carl needs to make himself safe. And I don't think this one is on Rick in any way. Rick did everything a father would do. He told him not to screw around. He told him to stay in the damn house or stay in Alexandria. He told him to, not help out strangers, right? Zombie apocalypse. And Carl went out and did it anyway. So, I guess in terms of like the practical nature of it, it does make sense. He's got one eye now. He's going around killing zombies, and his vision is not that great. So, which eye is it for him? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so you're going to have like half vision, right? So so if you get a couple walkers coming up on you and you trip or something, it can definitely happen, right? So, it's crazy stuff, but yeah, Shane was definitely right when he said that, and that's kind of crazy. So there's a lot of moments of the series you can look back at, in Rick and Carl's relationship and that, and even the first half. But there's even some dialogue that makes it interesting too, because Carl talks about going his own way, doing his own thing. Michonne says, "This is your show," and then clearly he's killed off. So this is my show, remember? And then he's like. It's kind of crazy, especially the one about him going his own way. That really makes me think that it was like it was his choice to leave. But, again, I don't want to call anybody a liar like that. But it's really crazy. But you guys can call anybody whatever you want in the comments. So go ahead. That's fine. I just have to be careful what I say because I'm putting it out there on the internet, for a lot of people to see. And you don't know if anybody involved could be, could catch it or hear and see. And I don't want to piss anybody off. So Kadita Jepson says, Q&A, Trev, what are the chances that Judith will fill the gap left by Carl? I think it makes more sense than the boy from the kingdom. So she's way too young, right? That's the problem for Candida. She's way too young to be able to fill almost any of those roles. She just can't. She's way too young. So for her, she's there. But you can't really do it with that, so it'll probably be Henry, but we'll see. Even that, this show's pretty unpredictable right now. You can't say who it's going to be, especially after what we just saw. Swaggy Toast says, the death of Carl is honestly the worst thing they could have done with the show. I was pissed when Glenn died, and now it's Carl. So, I'm thinking it'll have a positive effect on the show's interest right now this year, but we'll see. Maybe a lot of people sound like they're pretty upset, so maybe it won't have a positive. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the ratings say ultimately in the next half season, and just how people are feeling about it once the next half starts in February. Alexander Sharp says, Walking Dead has just gone mainstream pop media. And I would actually disagree with that one 100%. Killing Carl off is probably not a pop choice. It's not a popular decision, I don't think. I think killing Carl off is going against the grain. It's going against the norm, or going against what you would just, if you're going to go with the flow, that's something where, you probably just leave Carl, you do all the same parts from the comics with him, and you just let it go. Killing him off is the opposite of that. It's anti-pop, I would say. It's more of maybe like a hardcore fan base, or kind of just a different type of decision. It's definitely, for me, it's not a safe decision to do that. It's not a safe call, if you ask me. Becca Fry says, Q&A trip, when was the last time before Carl we had a bite death? I believe it's Noah, but I'm not sure. I want to know what your thoughts are on bite deaths. Are they an easy way out for a character death, or important to the story line to remind us that walkers are still very much dangerous? Keep up the great work, bud. So for Becca, I think the reason why they went with a bite death here is so that it has more of an impact on Rick, and so that maybe they can have some last few minutes of dialogue in the next half. Whereas if you were to kind of blow Carl up or something, he can't have those final moments of conversation with Rick or with Michonne or anybody else. I think it would have been cool though if they had just blown his ass up. No offense to Chandler Riggs or anything, or Carl fans, but like, what if Rick was like around or something, or he just got there, and then and Carl was walking back, and then one more grenade just like was thrown over or something, and then boom, you gotta set it up properly. But that would be quite the shock moment, and that would definitely, I would think, boost ratings, right? But they didn't do it for that. They did it for writing, it sounds like, so, and to have the story make sense. So for Rick's decisions in the second half, so we're gonna see. But yeah, it's been a while since we've had a bite death. I think the next episode will probably get quite a bit of dialogue between them, since they're saying goodbye to Carl and that. So that's probably why they went this route, to have it done this way. But yeah, it's true that the walkers are very dangerous. They are not something that's easy to control or easy to take down necessarily. And if you're not careful and you kind of try to make fun with them and just to have a good time by killing them, it can work out very badly, right? You're always taking a chance, right? Risking your life, the Herschel lines, right? So yeah, it's been a while since we've had a bite death, I think. We did have, of course, if you look at like Deanna was kind of like mauled by zombies at the end there, right? So there's that. I mean, there's bite deaths here and there. There's zombies. Zombies get some people, right, here and there. I can't think back off the top of my head to which was the last time we had a zombie kill somebody. But like you said, Noah, season 6, season 6 was big on the zombies and on the No Way Out situation, so there was quite a few then. But, yeah, you're right. There hasn't been like a A-list character bite death for quite a while. So this one's a sad one for sure. It reminds me of one in the comics later on that's still to come that was fairly recent, like in the last couple years in the comics. So it's been a while, yeah. And we'll just do a couple more. Jessica Gould says, I can't believe it. I cannot picture the show without Carl. So, yeah, man, it's going to be weird to see the show without Carl. It certainly is, because he's been in the show since like the very first, since it started, and he was one of the, the lead, characters in the series. So it's going to be really weird without having him in the series, just like it's kind of weird without having Glenn. And again, we're going to have to see how the TV series version of that plays out versus the comic book version, because they are different entities. They're totally different, and doing that in the TV series, you have to have someone else there to replace that, and it's going to be a little tricky. So I'm interested to see how things go in the future and what they decide to do. It worked out okay without Andrea, so maybe I guess without anybody in particular it could work out okay. The biggest risk, of course, would be to kill Rick off, which I used to think was impossible. Now I'm like, okay, maybe it's not impossible they kill Rick off eventually, meaning like in the next few years or something. I don't think they will, but I still don't think they will, but you kill Carl off, it's like you're kind of putting the show in the territory where it's like you could kill off Michonne or Rick or some of these big characters, and he's close to them. Like he's right below. He's like, if you want to go leveling, like Rick could be at the top. Then you have probably like Carl, Daryl, and Michonne, some of these other Carol. They're like right there, and then below that you get the rest. So it's going to be crazy to see the show without him in it, and to see Enid's reaction, some of the others, how this is going to go. Seth Barham says, wow, that was a really dark episode. No, really, I couldn't effing see anything. So for the darker episodes, I actually think it's probably a good choice when they do the darker episodes. It makes it a lot more scary. If you look at The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, the season 7 premiere, very dark out. Some of the best, kind of horror scenes, maybe No Way Out was pretty dark in the final, scenes of it. So I think kind of doing it at night like that, it actually is good. If you do it during the day, it's not nearly as scary. It could still be kind of like, a little bit, I guess, but it's just a lot more scary at nighttime when you can't see as much, and it probably makes it easier. Well, maybe not easier, but it makes it better, I would say. Season 7 finale most of that was during the day, wasn't it? So you can look at it that way. I do like the I do like the night battles too. They're exciting. So that'll be it for today's Q&A, guys. Let me know how you're feeling, what you're thinking. How do you think this will affect the future of the show? Do you think it will help, or do you think it will hurt it? It's definitely a high risk kind of move, or kind of not going with the flow. Not an easy move to make, I think, but one that will keep people on their toes, one that will make people question the story, one that will make people talk about it, will make people interested in it, and certainly will be a memorable season, that's for sure, and a memorable event from Season 8, so it's not just like any other season. It is, it is a standout. You do have a huge character death in it. Let me know what you guys think. Write your comments below, and if you like this video, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it, and you can do it. You can subscribe at the bottom left. That's it for this one. See you guys again soon for another video. As always, it's Trav, and I'm saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.